Good afternoon, members of the media, wider listening audience of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much for your patience. I apologize for being a few minutes late. Cabinet deliberations went on a little longer today. I am here today to announce one of the decisions coming out of our cabinet meeting today, which is that we have taken a decision to grant a 99-year lease to the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, for the use of the former public library building, which is situated at the corner of Knox and Pembroke streets in Port of Spain, to house on permanent exhibition the Eric Williams Memorial Collection. As you all are likely to be aware, the late Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, our first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who was the Prime Minister from 1956 to 1981, and contributed significantly not only to Trinidad and Tobago and to the development of Trinidad and Tobago, but also to the region, is someone that we believe should be significantly remembered in more ways than he has already been. He willed a host of memorabilia to his daughter, Erica Williams Cornell, who the current Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, has had discussions with, and Miss Erica Williams Cornell has generously agreed that the memorabilia, which is currently housed at the Alma Jordan Library at UWI St. Augustine, can be put on permanent display at the location that I've just identified. So today, Cabinet has taken a decision to grant to UWI a 99-year lease for that building, which is currently under renovation. The government is going to complete the renovation, and then they're going to pass the building over to be outfitted and spec'd by UWI to ensure that Dr. Williams's memorabilia and other items that are specifically linked to him and his honor are housed at this permanent location. This work is continuing afoot. My understanding, the Cabinet's understanding, is the building is about 70 to 80% complete, and now UWI will come in and provide the exact specs that they believe are necessary to house this memorabilia. And we're moving afoot to have this done. This was something that was first floated by Dr. Rowley when he was the leader of the opposition to celebrate the country's 50th independence anniversary. And now we, the Cabinet of today, have taken a decision to make this dream reality. So that is the decision that I've come to talk to you all about today. And of course, the Eric Williams Memorial Collection contains books, papers, and other memorabilia of the late Prime Minister. So hopefully in the not too distant future, it will now be housed appropriately at the location of the corner of Knox and Pembroke Street in a building that's built purposefully for that. Thank you very much. I'd take questions as usual. Oh, very good. No questions today? After. Just now, the mic has come forward.
Minister, as you mentioned, that particular tribute for Dr. Williams, can you give us any further deliberations regarding what further decisions are taken regarding Mr. Manning and his legacy? Because we know discussions are still going on. Has there been any decision on something regarding Mr. Manning, and possibly even say if there have been any further discussions about his final resting place and that sort of thing?
As I've mentioned to the media, since the funeral of the late Prime Minister Patrick Manning, the family are in their process, and we, the government, stand ready and continue to be ready to assist the family in whatever they decide for the final resting place of Mr. Manning. As far as I'm aware, there's been no further conversation about it at this time, and I think we should just await whatever is the family's final decision, and we as a government will assist in whatever way we can if they approach us with a final decision on that. With respect to the first part of your question, which is, has the government taken any decision with respect to the passing of Mr. Manning and any decisions that have been taken as to how he may be honored? The answer is no. There's been no final decision with respect to that as yet.
On a couple of other topics, could you indicate whether there were any further deliberations today at Cabinet on either the gate issue, the Gate Task Force report, and if there's been any update from the Minister of Finance on the roadshow.
Actually, as I came out of cabinet and grabbed my phone on the way down, and at the risk of speaking a bit prematurely, the Minister of Finance has sent me a message a short while ago to say the roadshow has been very successful. From what I saw, it was oversubscribed, maybe as much as 3.5 times oversubscribed. And to my recollection, I think we've agreed a final interest rate of 4.5%. So I think that's a good indication on the international market, how the international market continues to view with a great level of comfort Trinidad and Tobago and its financial situation. To have a US $1 billion bond oversubscribed, and as I say, it was just a brief look at my phone, maybe to the tune of over 3 times. That is a great, great enhancement and endorsement for Trinidad and Tobago from a financial perspective of how the international market is viewing us, and I dare say viewing the current administration's management of the economy going forward, because as you know, this bond is a prospective bond going forward into the future. Sorry, and with respect to Gate, yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to address that. The Prime Minister, during the whole course of last week, made it very clear when we were in another place, that is in Jamaica, and questions were raised with respect to Gate, and it remains the position. We are going to have a special session to consider the report. No decisions have been made by the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to Gate. This, of course, we recognize how many lives it affects, and we recognize that as a caring government, how carefully it must be considered. So each individual minister has been reading through the report, and then we're going to come together as a cabinet, and we're going to have a special session to consider and then make decisions as to how we go forward with Gate. At this stage, there's a report that provides recommendations, but no decision has been made by the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to Gate. It is something that we're going to be giving very considerable consideration to, and aware of the situations that students are in, etc.
All right. Any word, Mr. Minister, on the restorative works on the Red House, neighbor to both both libraries?
Yes, again, under the stewardship and the chairmanship of the Honorable Prime Minister, he had formulated, as you know, a very a very small committee. It comprises of the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, the Minister of Planning, the Minister of Finance, and myself. And that is one of the projects. The Red House is one of the projects that we have been very closely supervising. We met with both the parliamentary staff as well as the advisors on the restorative side and the consultant, Udicott, up to just a couple weeks ago. And we understand that things are progressing very well, and we expect packages to go out very soon for tender to get this work going, because we've given them a very tight deadline, and we would like the Red House completed as soon as possible.
Two very quick pieces before I hand over to some of my colleagues. One of them, that deal that our government and the Venezuelan government engaged in the context of the rolling 50 million facility available to local businessmen to supply of our products. How is that continuing? Also, what would have emerged from the Prime Minister's visit to Jamaica and you yourself in the context of healing or cooling relations?
On the Venezuelan front, I don't have the specifics, but from what I had last heard from the Minister of Trade, everything was going fine, and it seemed to be working well. I have not heard any complaints from our manufacturing sector, so I assume that all is going well with respect to that revolving rolling facility with the government of Venezuela. With respect to the visit, the Prime Minister's visit to Jamaica, all accounts, and up to yesterday I continued to receive telephone calls from businessmen in Jamaica as well as Trinidadian businessmen. All accounts are the trip was extremely well received. It was a very grueling trip, I can tell you. We spent the majority of Monday with the Jamaican cabinet, which was a very impressive unit like ours. And you were talking about Minister Moses, the Chief Secretary, Mr. Ramadan, myself, accompanying the Prime Minister. And we sat with the vast majority of the Jamaican cabinet, and we thrashed things out in a very, very productive and positive measure and manner. And we met, when we were up there as well, with the opposition. We met with the commission that's being led by former Prime Minister Golding, who is leading to find out what Jamaica's, or to produce a report on what Jamaica's position with respect to CARICOM should be. And every single meeting, we also met with private sector, the various bodies representing private sector. Every single meeting was left with great pats on the back, a lot of appreciation. The Prime Minister was very well received by all quarters. All conversations and talks were productive. As the Prime Minister of Jamaica said on the last day in the wrap-up press conference, there were a few occasions where things may have, reached a certain level with differences of opinions, but with every single one, we managed to work things out. The output from a governmental point of view now is that our two governments are working on various action items: trade, immigration, security, energy, a number of action items as to what the next steps are. And the prime ministers will be meeting at the heads of government in CARICOM in February of next year, if I remember the date correctly. And by then, we would hope to have achieved a lot of what we set out to achieve. But by and large, I can't think of a single item that was left unaddressed, and that we left Jamaica with the Jamaicans not appreciating that we had comprehensively addressed all of the items that they had raised with us, and in a satisfactory manner. Including sport. There was a lot of productive discussion with sport, and the Prime Minister put out a challenge to the Jamaicans to allow us to come up and compete with them, which was warmly received. So we're waiting to hear from them on the sport front, on the fashion front, in transport, both marine and air transport. It was a very, very packed week, but a very productive week.
You said that Minister Imbe indicated that the roadshow was such a success that this the bond issue or whatever, it was oversubscribed by 3.5 times. Does that suggest that the amount that will be borrowed is likely to increase?
All right, the way it works, and now that you've put it to me directly, I'm able to confirm U.S. bond successful, oversubscribed 3.5 times, settled at 4.5% interest. The way a bond subscription works is you have a set amount, and the oversubscription may help on issues such as interest rate. But in this case, I think, yes, whilst there would have been some flotation, the indication of a 4.5% interest rate out of an international market US dollar bond is very good, very positive. And no, it does not mean that the government would be taking up, because 3.5 times oversubscription suggests 3.5 billion US dollars. No, it is $1 billion, and they would have been bidding and competing to see who gets $1 billion worth of bond. But what it is an indicator of now is there is an appetite on the international market for Trinidad paper. So those who are outside of Trinidad and Tobago and on the international market are viewing positively how the economy is being managed, because they're willing to invest 3.5 times over the US bond. And when you marry that to what's been going on in our local sector, you would have seen in the newspapers recently Republic Bank Limited announcing that they've successfully placed, I believe, $2 billion worth of paper. It shows that there's a great appetite, both locally and internationally, for paper of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And that will be them doing a current measurement of how the economy is being handled now, and also some projection as how they see the economy being handled going forward in the future. So I really believe this is a great endorsement of how international and local markets are viewing the current handling of the economy.
Okay, and secondly, we've had reports of substandard food coming into Trinidad and Tobago over the recent weeks, be it chicken and other products.
Okay.
Only recently we had a claim from the food crop farmers that we are importing substandard chicken and other products. We have also fears of fish being, tainted. The Food and Drug Lab has been down for some time. Is that a priority so that we can have proper testing of products so that the local consumer can at least be somehow, assured or comforted that we are in fact exposed to proper production.
I hear what you're saying. That did not come up at discussion during the course of today's cabinet meeting, but it is something that must attract priority attention. It, I believe, falls under the Ministry of Health. So that is a question that we really should direct to the Minister of Health, and I will raise it with him as well on your behalves. But I have also seen recently a suggestion that the Ministry of Health was saying that things, the fish, for example, I'm sure I saw Ministry of Health saying this morning that the fish samples are okay for eating, the ones that are being sold. But yes, the answer would have to be, it must be a priority item. If it is not already on its way back to full health, and no pun intended, that is if you Food and Division section, that it must be given priority.
Minister Young, we're hearing that postal workers are not delivering mail today, and the JCC also gave a deadline of August 31st for payments, and both of them have to do with lack of payments from the government and back pay and outstanding arrears. What is the government doing, and who gets priority in situations like this?
First of all, I'm not aware of the postal worker situation, but I can say that Cabinet has deliberated and approved, consistent with the normal formula, that postal workers will get back pay 50% in cash and then the other 50% via mechanisms down the road. When the Minister of Finance comes back from his successful roadshow, I'm sure that one of the first things on the agenda would be to do a compilation of all of the cash resources, etc., and decide how these things are going to be addressed. We have seen the Contractors Association raising issue, and I think they themselves recognize that when we came into office, there was a need for proper auditing to be done. And I can tell you that we have found a great number of examples of overpayments, a number of examples of overcharging throughout the contracting system. So I know that various entities have been doing audits and comparative and independent analyses of work done. And I think the Minister of Finance, before he left, did indicate to the population that money will be paid to contractors.
So that August 31st deadline, do you think that's feasible?
The Minister of Finance will have to address that upon his return.
I also understand that Emil Elias of TSTT was supposed to make an announcement to Cabinet, probably about the state of TSTT. Can you expand on that? Or?
No, I can't.
Just wanted to continue along that particular track that we were on.
Which one?
What my colleague here was just referring to with respect to the JCC.
Yes.
Now, on a previous occasion when the finance minister was here, I believe you were present at that session as well, he had indicated that, as you said, that there needed to be a certain amount of auditing, and that the figure which was advanced at that time, 2 billion, was not a figure which could be definitively taken as the debt. So, given what you just said about the auditing, is the figure that the contractors are putting forward now of 2.4 billion, is that the confirmed debt, or is this still something which is open for speculation?
Again, I'm not suggesting it's open to speculation, but as you have just quite rightly recalled, we're hearing different and varying figures. So each entity, each state entity, because I see they've also indicated at least 3 major state enterprises and entities carrying a bulk of this, each of them would have to go through a verification exercise, which they have been undergoing. The government's position is, and the Prime Minister had stated this very clearly a couple of months ago, or maybe less than a couple of months ago, when he addressed the chairman of the various state boards, he had said that contractors shall be paid. Legitimate claims will be paid by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. But to protect our taxpayers, there must be a process and a procedure whereby we ensure that it is only legitimate claims that are being paid. If there's a cash flow, then also, as happens very frequently in the business world, you would make installment payments. So I am certain that is what the government is going to be doing when the Minister of Finance returns and he addresses what is the cash situation in the country. These are some of the measures that are going to be put in place and implemented. But it is not to say that the government has not been doing anything. I know for a fact that they have been verifying only legitimate payments and doing that through that audit process. So that has been happening.
Sonia Cooley from the Street 919 FM. This is in relation to the food card, issue of the food cards. in this morning's Guardian, it stated that 13,330 food card receipts will be removed from the system. Will government be going after illegitimate card holders?
You know, what that system was all about is the government had tried to introduce a biometric system, which of course is aimed directly and specifically at eradicating waste and eradicating corruption in the system. I think the article that we saw in the Guardian this morning indicates that an audit has taken place, and quite reasonably the government said, if you have a legitimate qualification for a food card, come in and properly register, etc. And what we saw are those figures where the number of food cards where persons were claiming on, as opposed to those who heeded the call to come in and follow the procedure and be properly recorded. There was a great disparity between the two. The Minister of Social Development is considering what the next steps will be, and I wouldn't want to speak very much more on that at this stage.
Minister, recently it has come into the public domain, intended vacation leave for the Prime Minister, and to go along with that, medical examination. Is there some cause for concern based on what may be rumored, or maybe yes, in the public?
I would like to caution the public of Trinidad and Tobago, never pay much heed to rumors. Let's get the facts. So it is a fact that the Honorable Prime Minister is taking some time off, as he himself has quite clearly indicated and is beyond refute. He came out of a very hectic campaign season that was a very hard. I mean, I recall it personally, the amount of speeches that would be made on a night by the Prime Minister and some others, and then straight into government. And we have had a very, very fast-paced trip as a government, and the Prime Minister has worked very hard, and I think everyone would accept that we all deserve some level of vacation. So certainly I am not going to be here fielding a number of accusations or conversations. The Prime Minister is going on a well-deserved vacation. He has indicated to the population that as part of that process, he intends to do a full medical, and that is all it is. The Prime Minister has taken a decision to do a full medical, and I think everybody should be looking after their health properly, and that's just part of the process. So at this stage, there is no cause for concern. But let's see how things go, and let's continue to pray for our Prime Minister and other members of leadership across the country.
So is the medical going to be done in Trinidad or overseas?
I think the Prime Minister has indicated that as part, during his vacation, he will be undergoing a medical overseas.
Crime, unemployment, provision of goods and services, the question of crime based on what has been happening again and again. What is the latest government reaction to this situation?
Well, as we've said as a government before, the government is here to provide a level of leadership, really, at the resource base to the various persons who are statutorily charged with fighting crime. Our police service, they're assisted and supplemented by the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. I can tell you we have been meeting regularly at National Security Council level, including with the various heads of these divisions and entities, and speaking to them about what their plans are and trying to assist them with the driving of policy, etc., as to how to address this crime situation. You look at the newspapers and the international news on a daily basis. It is something that is, I think, probably more fluid than ever before. And we're seeing things taking place that have never taken place before. So I can tell you, as a government, we continue to be extremely concerned about crime. It is very high up on the agenda. We have the minister getting support from other ministers, but we are the policy level and the facilitation of resources level. But our interaction with the law enforcement agencies is a very fluid one. And up to this week, the Prime Minister chaired National Security Council, with us meeting with the various heads to hear how things are going and to keep reassuring and seeing how we can better resource and where resources can be placed.
Yesterday marked the anniversary, 26th anniversary of the attempted coup by the Jamaat al-Muslimin. And activist Wendell Eversley said that, who does the annual walk, said that he thinks enough is not being done when it comes to commemorating this day, the anniversary. Do you think, as a member of cabinet, do you think enough is being done? And if not, do you all have any future plans in regards to this?
That specific item has not come up for cabinet discussion and decision. That day, those many years ago, was one of the darkest days in our history. And of course, we as a government yesterday, in our own reflective ways, did give it consideration and thought about it. But where one of the places that used to take place at was the Red House. And as you know now, the whole Red House is all under construction, etc. So as a government, it is something that may be considered going forward in the future. But we do recognize that it was a very unfortunate day in our history. And we are working towards ensuring that our law enforcement agencies are aware, so hopefully something like that does not happen in the future.
I just wanted clarification on something I asked earlier. Is it possible that the money from this bond, from the sale of this bond, can go toward repaying contractors, or is that not something that we're looking at?
As I said, those questions are best directed to the Minister of Finance, who's charged with the management of government's money resources, and there are a number of competing requests for money from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but the government's position is legitimate claims will be paid.
Another topic, I've also heard that the Cabildo chambers, where the office of the AG is it's to be vacated. The office of the AG is to move. Does that mean it's finally going to move into the Legal Affairs Tower?
The Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs are proceeding in a fast-paced manner to ensure occupation of the Legal Affairs, which is now the AGLA Tower, the Attorney General and Legal Affairs Tower, at the government campus. So yes, that move is afoot. The Attorney General and myself have been meeting with the various heads of department, and we have a facilitation team who are looking into the move, and that is proceeding apace. We hope to begin the move and complete a great part of the move within the next coming weeks.
So soon that
oh yeah,
we will no longer be the office of the
well, because of the merger of the two ministries, when that tower was built, it was really supposed to be MLA, Ministry of Legal Affairs Tower. There was then a decision to merge the two ministries, that is the Attorney General's ministry as well as the Ministry of Legal Affairs. So by definition, there was not sufficient space to house these two merged ministries. So there are still going to remain some areas of our Ministry of Attorney General at Cabildo, but they too will have to vacate the building at some point in the future.
Does the government own that building, or are they currently paying rent for
which building?
Cabildo?
Cabildo, my understanding is Cabildo is owned by NIPDEC. NIPDEC is an arm of the government. Okay. No, they're fighting over the mic.
We're not. Certainly not. Two reports on the cabinet consideration that we have come to know recently. One, of course, the GATE report, and the other, the CLICO report. Could we get an update on what?
CLICO's report is not under cabinet consideration. Cabinet, when you say the CLICO report, I assume you mean the Commission of Inquiry report of Sir Anthony Coleman. As the Prime Minister had stated in Parliament, I believe on the 23rd of June, that report, what had happened is it was sent to the Prime Minister by His Excellency. There was some deliberation by Cabinet, and Cabinet authorized the report being sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions for advice on what can come out of the report into public, and whether there were any investigations undergoing. I can now report that the Director of Public Prosecutions has responded to the Honorable Prime Minister this week, and the Director of Public Prosecutions, in a private and confidential manner, has indicated to the Prime Minister that there is an investigation ongoing. That investigation is under his office, and with various arms of state, meaning the police service. And as a result of the continuation of that investigation, which commenced in 2012, he has advised the Prime Minister and Cabinet that the Coleman report should not be made public, because he does not want those investigations prejudiced, which is exactly what the Prime Minister had indicated in his message to the public via his statement in Parliament.
Just wanted to switch back to the July 27, 1990. Just very briefly, one thing which you didn't expand upon was implementation of the recommendations of the coup inquiry. Now, that happened under the last government, but since coming into office, I know a lot has been said about all these recommendations haven't been acted upon. But since the PNM came into office, have you all been able to get a sense as to where implementation of those recommendations have reached before you all came in, and what is the current state of play with them now?
I personally don't have those recommendations in front of me, but as you quite rightly pointed out, it was something that was done under the last administration, and I assume that they put it into the necessary hands that it had to be in, and that really would, I assume, be a Ministry of National Security, would be the majority of the issues being dealt with. So I can't give you a specific answer on it because, quite frankly, I just don't know where it has reached, but I would like to presume that the recommendations were given to those who need to consider the implementation, and it is receiving some attention. But I can raise it with the Minister of National Security.
And finally, Minister, the government must be aware that there has been some kind of rumbling in the trade union movement. To it, quite recently, there was an address by Mr. Ansel Roger that pinpointed a number of situations that is of concern to the union. Has the government reacted to this in any way by at least indicating that they're going to meet or treat with some of these issues?
Quite ironically, I used to be one of the counsel for OWTU and the trade union movement. So part of the trade union movement is to bring areas of concern to the attention of the public and the government. The government has heard what the trade union movement via Comrade Roger said over the weekend. And as we do with everything, there is a Minister of Labour who meets on a very, very regular basis with all of the various comrades from the trade unions, and that conversation continues to be an open conversation, and there continues to be a lot of discussion. We as a government, I'd like to believe, have a very good relationship with the unions, where the unions have conversations with us all of the time. We listen. There are going to be some disagreements along the way, but by and large, we're working towards the same end, which is to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place. All right, thank you all very much for your presence here this afternoon, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Trinidad and Tobago, as we celebrate emancipation, happy emancipation on this weekend. Thank you all very much.